In this video, I'm going to talk about some steps to build a retro game and give examples from a retro game I built a while back. So first, decide the concept. What type of game will it be? Arcade, adventure, simulation, etc. Is it going to be an original concept, a remake, or derived from a previous game but not entirely the same? Will there be any copyright issues if based on existing IP? For my game, it was to be a simple arcade game, based on my memory of the classic game Bomber. I don't think there are any copyright issues with such an old game. Next, decide the platform. Is it going to be a single platform or multiple platforms? Is it going to be Windows, Mac, Linux, mobile, web, console, or retro computer? Is the game for the original machine or on a different machine but looks like the original machine? What will be the programming language or technology? Will it be high-level language, machine code, or a mix of technologies? Do you know this technology, or are you planning to learn it? I wanted to build my game using TypeScript to run on the web. I wanted it to look exactly like a ZX81 game. I was learning TypeScript at the time, so this was good practice. TypeScript is based on JavaScript, with object-oriented features added, and type checking. Who is going to work on it? Is it to be a single-person effort or a team effort? Do you have the skills to build a game either as an individual or a team? Keep things real. If you don't have the skills, do you think you can learn them? My game was to be built by just me. I'd written some retro games before a while back, so I thought it shouldn't be too difficult. What is your reason for building the game? Is it a game you always wanted to build? Is it to gain experience building games? Or is it to learn some new technologies? As I said, I built it to help learn TypeScript and have some fun building a ZX81 style game. I wanted to bring a ZX81 game to the web, so people who'd never had a ZX81 or theirs no longer worked could play it. Not everyone wants to mess around with emulators, and it was for those people. What will the game look and sound like? What will be the dimensions and resolution of the game? What will be the graphics? How big are the graphics? What is the colour palette going to be? Will the graphics be based on a specific retro platform? If you're making the game look like a specific platform, how will you do this? Will it have sound? If so, how will the sound be created? My game would have 32 by 24 characters like the ZX81. It would be black and white low resolution with no sound like the ZX81. I would make the characters look the same as ZX81 characters, so it would look as close as possible to a ZX81 game. How will the game be programmed? Will it be all bespoke? Will you use a game engine? Will you build a game engine? Or will you build a sprite engine or use an existing one? If there are sprites, how will it interact if you don't have a sprite engine? If low-level code, will you need to build a library of functions to support the game logic? The programming for my game would be all bespoke. I wouldn't have a game engine, just a sprite engine. I'd never built a sprite engine, so that was the fun part. It would take most of the time, as the game itself is very simple. What will be the duration of the game build? Is the development of the game to be timely? Is there something happening that means it needs to hit a set target date? Or does it have no fixed endpoint? Can the team members spend enough time on it with other commitments? Will some team members be putting in more time than others? And if they do, will this cause problems? There was no time limits to build my game, but I didn't want it to take too long as I have a full-time programming job and didn't want to spend my entire life looking at a computer. There would be just me making it, so no team issues. Performance. Is there likely to be any performance issues? Will optimization be required? Does this mean part of the game will need to be a machine code or a low-level language like C, for example? For my game, TypeScript running on a web browser is quite fast enough to build a ZX81 game, so there will be no performance issues. Platform issues. Are there any issues related to the platform? For example, are there restrictions on memory for the game, or does the target machine have any characteristics that might cause issues, e.g. colour clash on the spectrum? There were no platform issues for the game I was building, as it was running in the browser and I defined a character set at the start. I would use JavaScript Canvas and bought a book to get some background information on it. But really, I only needed to write the characters to the canvas, so it was pretty simple. Input just used JavaScript, so that was pretty straightforward too. Getting started. The first things to do are to build a room or level and get the character to move around in it. Think about the introduction and menus. Draw them out in rough at least. Are there any specific requirements for the game? Does the game need to be asynchronous, or is a simple game loop enough? There is only one room for my game. Buildings and stars were all that was needed for the background. I started off getting the bomber moving across the screen, dropping slowly using the sprite engine. Then I used the sprite engine to release the bomb and destroy a building when it hit it. The intro screen was super simple, just flashing bomber and git and instructions of what to press. The game just looped at the end. Testing. How will you test your game? Is it better to get some help, some independent testing? Do you know any volunteers? Or cheap options if the game is unlikely to make much money? For my game, I tested it myself, just playing it over and over. For sure, if the game was more complex, it would have been a good idea to get someone to test it. At least watch someone else playing it, or better still, a few people of different gaming levels. The release. Will you release a demo, or will you wait for the final game? How will you release it? Will it be on a website, a phone store, or a site such as itch.io? Is it to be a software release, or a physical release, or both? If it's to be a physical release, how will you put together the physical package? What will go into it? Will there be different versions depending on cost? Will the game be paid or free? If paid, what model will you use? For my game, I just released the finished game on the web. It was software only, no physical game. It's such a simple game and so old school, I didn't think anyone would pay for it. It was just a fun project to learn a bit of TypeScript. And finally, feedback and improvements. How will you get feedback? How will you incorporate the feedback into the game if you think it's necessary? And how will you release further versions? I did get some feedback watching a guy playing my game at work. He didn't have any problems with it, so it seemed fine. As it's a web game, I could just upload it again to the website if I found any bugs. So that's some thoughts on building a retro game. Hope some of it was useful at least, and thanks for watching.